Hello, hello, hello. Margaret Lloyd here with Eternal Shift. Here today, we're going to talk about how to stop seeking external validation. We always like it when people say nice things to us about things that we've done. But you know what? We need the internal validation more than we need the external validation. We need to know that we are good enough as we are. We don't need somebody to come to us and say, "Oh, you did such a wonderful job. There's a snickerdoodle. She's come to join us." Yeah. Let mommy close the door, okay? Let me close it. I have to keep it somewhat shut so we don't hear everybody else that's yippity yapping out and about in the world, okay? All right, so Carl Jung is a very knowledgeable gentleman. I love listening to his podcasts. He's was very knowledgeable, and he speaks well of things that he knows about. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside is awake. We're all wired to seek connection. We all want to connect with people. But do we need to be so connected to people that they are telling us what we want to hear? But what we don't understand is that we need, not want, we need our own validation. We need to be able to validate ourselves and connect to ourselves. So we're all wired to seek connection, safety, and belonging with other people. These are some of our basic survival needs. But you might find yourself wanting to learn how to stop seeking external validation. If you realize that you are constantly relying on approval of others, this holds true, especially if you feel deflated when you don't get the response you expected from others. Indecisive because you worry what others will think, or driven to function out of obligation. And that's all very, very true. We always expect validation from others, but we don't need it. We don't need it. We need to validate ourselves. It might sound contradictory to think about how we need to feel connected, yet not rely on others for approval. As per usual here on the Eternal Life blog, the answer lies in the little details that help us differentiate between the two. And trust me, there's a big difference, which is also in usual eternal life change, fashion where the little things add up to have big impact on our lives. So each one of these little bitty blogs that I do winds up being of help to you. Every time I do one of these blogs, or vlogs as my son would rather I describe them, but I feel so good about what I've done. I hope what I'm doing is of help to individuals. I know it's a big help to me because when I listen to these different vlogs during the day, and that's where I come up with these, what I'm going to do on the following day. And so I listen to all these blogs, and they're so good, and they're so helpful. Zooming out to look at the big picture, learning how to stop seeking external validation is so meaningful because it gives us the permission we need to show up more authentically in the world, which leads us to feeling emotionally safe, seen, and accepted on the inside. In addition to that, showing up authentically also leads to stronger, more voracious relationships because we can connect with others on a deeper level, offering our loved ones that same experience of feeling safe and seen and accepted. When you boil it down, I think this is what we're all seeking in the world. We all want to feel valued and accepted by ourselves and by others. Because if we can't accept ourselves as ourselves, how is anybody else going to accept us as who we are? So on that note, let's start unpacking how to stop seeking external validation. What is external validation? External validation is the experience of feeling validated by other people, meaning that others give us some sort of sign or signal that what we feel, think, believe, said, did was a good thing. Here are some classic examples. Lay down, sweetie. Lay down. The teacher's pet. A student in school seeks external validation from the teacher, and the teacher rewards the behavior by calling on the student frequently and praising their knowledge. An indecisive person, someone who seeks out the advice and opinions of others, ad nauseam before making decisions in their life. Social media, absolutely. Social media is designed for us to receive likes, loves, follows, comments that validate our experience of the world. When we seek external validation, we're looking for verification and evidence from other people that we fit in. This goes back to my belief that all people seeking to feel safe, seen, and accepted at the core. And while we all need a level of external validation to feel that, when we chronically seek external validation, the brain can get wired to believe that our value and worth comes only from being validated by others. Why do I seek external validation? From a neurobiological biological perspective, we all seek external validation because our brains are designed for us to connect with others for safety and belonging. Connection is a biological imperative, meaning that we need it for survival. If you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you might think that there are a few more important aspects for survival that come before connection. As of 2013, however, we've got the research to dispute that. Dr. Matthew Lieberman, a neuroscientist at UCLA, discovered just how important connection is to the brain and to our health, noting that not having meaningful connections is as detrimental to our bodies as smoking. According to Lieberman, social connection is actually as important for survival as food and water. Not only do we have the research to show the neural pathways in the brain that are designed for connection, but also research to validate the devastating effects of severed or reduced social connection, especially in early childhood. What's the matter, baby? What's the matter? You need water? You need to go get you a drink of water? Huh? Did Mommy let you out to go get you a drink of water? I can do that. You want to go get a drink of water? Go to the door. Come on. Go get you some water. She's such a good doggy. Okay. But she doesn't like to stay put. The belief that connection is a biological imperative originally comes from Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory, which is a framework for understanding the impact people have on each other's brains and bodies when interacting. I know that might sound complicated, so here's an accessible example. Imagine you're on the metro and another rider standing across from you that you don't know yawns. Most likely you and other people around them will yawn too. This is because of mirror neurons in our brain. It's one example of how our bodies interact and respond to each other automatically. Polyvagal theory is connected to the autonomic nervous system, ANS, which is in charge of the automatic function of our body, including heart rate, breathing, digestion, blood pressure, and arousal. Gonna have to close that door again. It's okay. Basically, our brains and nervous system are wired to respond to the people and environment around us without our conscious awareness of it. Not only that, but our brains are wired to respond to social pain and pleasure. In fact, social disconnection is linked to physical distress. And we have research to show that feeling neglected activates the part of the brain that responds to physical pain. We also have research to validate how painful loneliness is. Loneliness also increases the risk of mortality from heart disease. We all seek some level of external validation as a way to feel connected, accepted, and like we belong because of how we are biologically wired. So there's not need to set out with the intention to stop seeking in external validation entirely. Why do some people need so much validation? While we all seek a level of external validation, it's true that some people seek more than others. It makes sense because external validation feels good and it releases dopamine, the chemical in the brain associated with comfortable, feel-good emotions. The thing about external validation is that the good feelings tend to dissipate quickly, and if seeking external validation has become a habit and a way of life for you, before you know it, you're back to seeking more positive feedback from others that what you're doing, saying, wearing, thinking, feeling, wanting, needing is valid. See, I have learned that what matters is what I think. What I think looks good or feels good. I don't need somebody to tell me that I'm doing a downward dog right. I know how to do a downward dog. I may not be able to do a lot of other different things, but I can do a downward dog. I can do a pigeon. That's right. May not be able to do a lot of other stuff because I get dizzy doing it, but I do what I can. Okay, so that's because what fires together wires together in the brain. If you've ever heard the phrase creature of habit, absolutely. We are all creatures of habit. It goes far beyond the personality aspect it's usually used to describe. We are all creatures of habit in that our brains thrive on routine and are wired to create routines. When we repeat a task, routine, or habit, the neural networks in our brain strengthen and we get better at doing that task, routine, or habit to the point of where it becomes something we can do while functioning on autopilot. It's like my knitting. I can do that on autopilot, absolutely. We can also find ourselves seeking significant amounts of external validation from our experiences in relationships. If you grew up in a generation where you're old enough to be reading this, you likely learned that not following the expectations of others often results in some sort of punishment, whether that be getting picked on, the silent treatment, we all hate that one, getting bombarded with criticism, we hate that one too, or worse yet, being shamed for our choices. The implicit lesson we learn in all those responses from others is that we can't trust ourselves. Self-doubt becomes our constant companion. In order to combat that, we find ourselves unable to stop seeking external validation just to feel okay. Is it okay to want external validation? Of course. External validation is wired into our brains, our bodies, our beings, our everything. When you might want to think about putting on the brakes and learning how to stop seeking external validation is if you notice that you value being validated by others over following your internal compass. When fitting in becomes more important than belonging, they should want to belong to you and fit in with you. Seeking external validation is an essential part of fitting in. It gives us feedback in our quest for belonging. I define fitting in as a desire to be liked by the people around us, so we will go along with the person or group even if we don't agree or like the things they do. In other words, we'll give up parts of ourselves to be pseudo-liked by others. External validation is inherent in fitting in because we've got to know what other people value so we can attempt to be that for pseudo-acceptance. They don't accept you for who you are. You're only free when you realize you belong no place. You belong every place. No place at all. The price is high, the reward is great. Maya Angelou. And she's right. Belonging, on the other hand, is where we're able to show up authentically and be true to ourselves, even when it goes against what's mainstream or popular, and we can't be accepted and valued just as we are. That's what I want. I want to be valued just as I am. I'm a good person. I'm kind and loving and caring. External validation can support us in our quest for belonging when balanced well with internal validation. And so when we do, say, wear, think, believe, feel goes against the grain, we have the courage to stand alone alongside ourselves. We confuse belonging with fitting in, but the truth is that belonging is just in our hearts. And when we belong to ourselves and believe in ourselves, above all else, we belong everywhere and nowhere. Bryn Brown wrote that. Internal validation is connected to our own inner compass. It knows what fits us best and what is true to us. When we stop seeking external validation so often and seek more internal validation, we don't feel a need to rely on others so much to guide us and approve our ways of being in the world. We can stop seeking external validation so much because we've got grounding in internal validation to carry us through the times when we aren't validated by others. Is it realistic to stop seeking external validation? There are some things you can do to stop seeking external validation. so frequently and cultivate internal validation, which we will discuss in the next section of the post. But you know, we're all about making lasting change here at the eternal life change. So let's just briefly touch on how to make change that sticks. There are some things you can do to stop seeking external validation. Okay, our brains have this amazing capacity for something called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to grow, adapt, and changes as it learns new information. It's the brain's capacity to create new neural networks. Here's an example of how it works. Let's say you shop at Aldi for groceries. You know how to get there without thinking about it. You know where everything is in the store. And you have all of your usual weekly items that you buy. Easy peasy. Yep. It requires very little brain capacity to go to the store, unless you're shopping with toddlers, because you've got a neural network set up for this. Now let's say you decide to start shopping at Whole Foods instead. You've got to pay attention when driving to the store as well as when inside the store, because you don't know yet how it's organized as well as you know Aldi, and you might have to find some new brands for foods you purchase regularly. Your brain will be more engaged doing something new than when doing something you've done several times. It won't always require more mental capacity to go to Whole Foods, though. Eventually, your brain will develop a new neural network and you won't have to think about it so much. All this to say that yes, your brain might be wired for a higher level of external validation than you like right now, but it's not gloom and doom, because your brain can be rewired to stop seeking external validation with intention and time. And we will look further into that tomorrow. So I hope you enjoyed part 1. Part 2 tomorrow. We will, in the first few minutes, we will rehash what we learned today, and then we will start off with how to stop seeking external validation. So we'll work on that tomorrow. In the meantime, we're going to work on ourselves. We're going to work on giving ourselves internal validation, loving ourselves, caring for ourselves, not expecting external validation. We need to validate ourselves. Validate yourself. Do that. Tell yourself, I'm good. I did good today. I worked out. I went and worked out this morning. I was sore. My arms are achy. Didn't want to do. My shoulders didn't want to do what they were supposed to do, but they did them. Did it anyway. I made it work. Made it work. Absolutely. So until tomorrow, peace and love forever. See ya. And don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. Love you all. See you tomorrow.